As a lawyer, you look at the Constitution of Pakistan, which very clearly establishes civilian control of the military. It's a joke, but it's there in the Constitution. And so then you start to think of some of the ground norms that we as a society abide by. And Constitution and the constitutional principles should be that ground norm that holds a society and a country and a state together. And yet, the ground norm that the society seems to abide by seems to be predominance of military as an institution and the need to protect this one institution at the cost of all others. If you look at the speeches made by any of the dictators when they took over, or if you even look at the subtext in the affidavit filed by General Kiani and General Pasha in the memo scandal before the Supreme Court, you'll see that subtext, that this is a very important institution that needs to be protected. And anything or any exercise of authority that undermines this one institution in any way is treasonous. Now the Constitution also defines treason, which is the subversion of the Constitution or an attempt to subvert the Constitution. So it's a very clear definition. You have to go back to the Constitution, look at the fundamental rights, try and figure out what is it that's being subverted here. So when the memo came out, there was a big conversation that is this a treasonous memo, is this not treasonous? Different lawyers had different viewpoints. The Supreme Court hasn't really dilated on the issue, so there isn't a judicial pronouncement. But there were a few things in the memo. One of the things was that it proposed to allow US forces to operate within Pakistan, to hunt and kill citizens, non-citizens who were suspected of being terrorists, to hand over people to the US without the due process of law. Now, just these two things are a breach of Articles 9 and 10 of the Constitution of Pakistan. So to the extent that somebody, a government official, proposed to allow a foreign state to do some of this, it cannot be allowed under the Constitution, and there's an argument that this could possibly be a breach of the Constitution. And then the question for the Supreme Court would be if a public office holder willingly undermines fundamental rights of the citizen, and these are some of the most fundamental rights, life, liberty, security, without due process of law, then does that fall within the scope of treason? Now, so in my opinion, it's a welcome opportunity for the Supreme Court to look at some of these things and try and figure out what is the scope of treason and to give meaning to it. But then, if undermining Article 9 and Article 10 rights of citizens does fall within the scope of treason, then we also have a missing persons case going on. There's been a conversation about how people are picked up, people go missing, etc., etc. So anybody who's a public office holder, and military officials are public office holders, who's involved with any of that would also automatically fall within the scope of treason. So then the scope of treason would be a very, very expansive scope if we argue that Haqqani actually did write the memo, that even the memo, he had the support of the president. Even then, if it falls within the scope of Article 6, it's a very, very expansive scope that we're talking about.
I think most of our problems emanate from the way we were generated. This country was came into being. And this term has already been used by my young friend, in search of identity, as we are. In 1947, when the country came into being and Mr. Jinnah decided to take the office of the Governor General as opposed to the Prime Minister, certain tone had already been set how the country will go on and will carry on its governance. When inaugurating the first Constituent Assembly on 11th of August 1947, he spoke at length about how the country will be run and how it will be non-theocratic in nature. This particular speech of Mr. Jinnah was immediately, how it got vanished from the official records is also a part of history. Dr. Mubarak Ali has dealt on it quite in detail. And since my great-grandfather was confidant of Jinnah in those days, and he was the one who carried the message from the establishment, the then establishment of Pakistan, military establishment of Pakistan and civil bureaucracy, to Mr. Jinnah that do not repeat these words, because then we will be negating the two-nation theory on which we have built the foundation of this country. So, two-nation theory, whatever it was, never suggested that this country will be run on a theocratic basis. But unfortunately, those forces who later made IGI and then MMA, IGI, Islamic Jamhuri Ittihad, the alliance which military establishment put together to confront Pakistan People's Party, and then MMA made by Musharraf, and before that, thank you Haris, PNA. All the political entities that made these alliances were the ones whose parent organizations had opposed Pakistan, from Ehrar to Kuch Khaas to Deoband to every school of thought, except there were some exceptions. For example, Pir Sahib of Malki Sharif from the then NWFP, Pir Sahib of Golra Sharif, some Pirs of Sindh, and specifically Shabir Ahmad Usmani and his brother Zafar Ahmad Usmani, who were disciples of Maulana Ashraf Thani, and they Maulana Thani actually asked them, recommended them to side with Jinnah and make it possible for him to get the public opinion in favor of Pakistan, and that's what happened. But these, all of them who have captured the narrative, the national narrative, they were against the creation of Pakistan. Had Pakistan been made on the basis of religion, why would all the religious entities, why would all the religious groups be against the creation of Pakistan? That is one strong question that they have not been able to answer. Maulana Maududi, I just forgot him, Maulana Maududi, who later became part of the Muslim Brotherhood, Ikhwan al-Muslimin, who is the great-grandfather of Al-Qaeda.
And Haris started with a very interesting comment about this panel being lopsided. I completely add to making it lopsided. But then why not? In this day and age, it's very rare for the alternative view to actually make the circles and be heard in Islamabad. We are living through a period of what I call military hegemony, which means it's not just that they're politically powerful and economically powerful, they also have intellectual control. I mean, for all of that we say repeatedly about media being free in this country, I think this is one of the worst periods for media in this country. I thought that, I was growing up during the 1980s, but I thought that journalists, print media was relatively much braver during the 1980s than it is now. It does not challenge, it does not question, and in fact, opinion is nothing but a rubber stamp approved essentially from ISPR, ISI, and wherever. The whole mechanism of controlling opinion has become so intense, and I'll talk about it. So, if this is a lopsided panel, then so be it. Another comment which Haris made was that we're living through a post-martial law era. I think we are living through it. The problem is that Pakistan never had a regime change. We have had governments change, but we've never had a regime change, essentially. We always forget, I mean, of course, you get very excited whenever there is a political government. We get very excited, we're like, democracy is here, it's here to stay. In 2-3 years, we get ready to say goodbye to it. I mean, it's so, the last couple of years, in fact, since this government took over, has been fantastic. Because every 6 months, there is this rumor about the government about to go, the government about to leave, being pushed out. So practically, it's a weak government, it's defanged, it's incapacitated. So besides that, some inherent problems that it has, it has a reduced capacity to operate anyway. We are similar. We are predatory at all levels. It's the civil society, the leadership in the civil society, people amongst us who go fawning over the military, fawning over power and authority. We all love power and authority. Let's not get confused about it. It's not a problem of Mr. Zardari or Mr. Gilani or XYZ. This is our own internal problem. We are Praetorian. And therefore, the problem of such societies is that civil-military divide is actually very opaque. It's not just about military versus civil. And it becomes, I think in Pakistan's case, it becomes doubly problematic because now if you, for example, if somebody were to do, unfortunately, since social science is dead in this country, nobody does it anymore, but if social science were to come alive and somebody would do a mapping of the elite here, you would see these crisscross connections, military linked with civil bureaucracy, linked with feudal landowners, linked with NGOs, linked with media barons, industrialists, business. So it's all connected. Even that. So it's
which communists?
All of them are very rich.
So it's all connected, and therefore the problem right now is that this is a completely, totally uphill task. Memo-gate, yes, military protects itself. One final point. I think what the military does is that it has this, what I call a political, once I wrote about it, a political hatchery. Every 5 to 10 years they produce a new set of politicians. And if Mr. Imran Khan manages to come, he will be actually the 3rd generation of politicians. I include Zulfikar Ali Bhutto in it. So ZAB, the Sharif brothers, and talking about politics at national level. So they are fond of doing it. Now, and part of what they create has to do with military's desire to be control of the national narrative. Do not forget that in military's mind, they are Pakistan. And so, intellectually, this is something which has completely seeped into what the way we've been made. And finally, I would want to read out this SMS which I got a day after May 2nd. It says, "We were there for you in 1948, 65 and 71. We always bricked the defense wall with our blood. We were there on Indian Tiger Hills in Kargil. We gave 5,000 lives in fighting against terrorism so that you could sleep well. We will always be there for you because it is our love for you and not only duty. Be with us when we've been stabbed in the back. We'll never let you down. Our blood will always happily spill for your smiles, no matter what you say to us. We're always yours. Signed, Pakistan Armed Forces."